Ramadan begins in Gaza with famine spreading and the death toll nearing 45,000. I'm raising funds for orphans, children with amputated limbs, children that are starving, to supply water, food, medical supplies, just basic necessities for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. The fundraiser is Zakat eligible and every donation, no matter how small or how big, will be greatly appreciated. I partnered with HCI Canada, which are a Muslim charity, and I chose to partner with them because they're endorsed by some of the biggest activists for Palestine, like Sean King and Mu'taz Aziza, and I've actually worked with them a couple of times before, and I continue to work with them as my favourite charity because they're very transparent in their work. They keep me up to date with videos and pictures, and I completely trust these people with all my heart. They are one of the leading charities on the ground in Gaza, so please, if you have the means to donate, the link is in the description of this video, in the comments of this video. Don't miss out on this chance to get good deeds. Onto the video. So this is Mehdi Hasan, and he's one of the greatest debaters in history. He does so much for Islamophobia and Muslims. I've actually reacted to a video before of his at Oxford Uni, and he did an amazing debate on Islamophobia. He's such an incredible debater, and he's just such a powerful figure in the West, here in UK, and actually he's in America. He has a show in America that got cancelled. Mashallah, I'm a big fan. I think he's very clever. And he has such an amazing way of just beating everyone when it comes to debates. He knows everything. I feel like this guy actually knows everything, mashallah. And he did an interview with Piers Morgan, which I've watched the entire thing, and I've picked out my favourite parts of it. So you're not going to have to sit through the entire like half-an-hour interview. I picked the favourite bits, my best bits of this interview, where Mehdi Hasan really destroys Piers and just destroys the whole Zionist movement. And I put them in this video to react to. Get your notepad and pens out, guys, because there's a lot to learn from this.
Let me just take you back to October the 7th. I want you to imagine, and it's a bit of a leap, I admit, but I want you to imagine that you are the Prime Minister of Israel when that atrocity happens in Israel. What do you do?
That's a great question. So short answer is I resign, because I'm responsible for that attack. I'm the one who botched security at the border. I'm the one who propped up Hamas with money from Qatar over the years and allowed them to be propped up as a way to divide the Palestinian people. I'm the one who's had millions of my own people on the streets for months protesting against my authoritarian reforms to the judiciary. So I have some shame, I have some self-respect, I have some honesty, and I say, I quit. Let someone else do this because I've failed for 20 years.
Okay, Netanyahu did not do that. And interestingly, although the majority of Israelis would like him to go, they also want him to finish the job in destroying Hamas. There's not much ambiguity in terms of how Israelis feel about the mission plan. But there's obviously a lot of concern mounting around the world about the scale of Israel's response. And that's really what I guess my question was alluding to.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I've said this a lot on my Uncensored show, that I felt a real moral quandary.
So let's just say that Piers Morgan, he's had this real moral quandary for the past 5 months, and nothing anyone said or done has influenced that. Everyone's coming with amazing arguments for him, especially guests like Mehdi Hasan. I don't see how you can morally justify killing babies that are obviously not Hamas. There's just there's no debate. There's no, is this right or wrong? It's wrong. You know, I was watching an amazing lecture by Abdul Hakim Murad, and he was talking about distraction. And, you know, we live in a world where multi-billion-dollar corporations spend all their money and marketing and everything to distract us. I mean, the whole world is built on distraction. Entertainment, it's all distraction. When we're in a distracted mind, we're not able to discern the difference from good or bad. Piers Morgan, maybe you need to stop being distracted and just sit down and contemplate and really think about the enormous amount of facts and information that you have in your head from these guests. And just think, what's the moral quandary? This whole thing is really simple. Ceasefire, stop killing children and babies, stop killing innocent men and women, stop killing elderly, stop killing the animals, stop killing everything that exists in Gaza that's not an Israeli. It's really that simple.
the percentage of children being killed is horrific. But I would say, as a caveat to this, that if you think about it from the Israeli perspective, you've got 35,000 Hamas terrorists, and we'll come to whether you think they're terrorists or not in a moment, but you've got 35,000 Hamas soldiers, warriors, terrorists, whatever description you want to call them, depending on whose side you're on. And they are embedded amongst a civilian population where half that population is under 18. How else do you get rid of Hamas if you don't go about it in the blunt, brutal manner that Israel is doing? And if you do it the way they're doing it, how do you avoid the kind of casualty rate of people under 18, given that that's half the population?
I just want to say that if these people, if Hamas were in Israel, I promise you 1,000,000%, this amount, the 45,000 people, the probably 30,000 estimated children that are being killed, if they were Israeli, that would not have happened. If Hamas were in Israel, they were hiding under Israeli buildings, they would not have killed that many Israeli children.
So, three things very briefly. Number one, you do it by not deliberately targeting civilian targets and schools and hospitals and cemeteries and mosques and universities and churches. You don't have snipers shooting at hospitals or Christian women inside a church. That's how you avoid the casualties. Number two, I don't accept the premise of your question that this is the way to defeat Hamas. I think even if I'm an Israeli hawk, I criticize Netanyahu and say, this is not the way to defeat Hamas. This is actually absurd to think you can defeat Hamas in this way. We have countless episodes from history that show us this is not how you defeat a guerrilla movement, a resistance movement, a terror group, as you say, whatever words you want to use. In fact, you have Israeli generals saying this can't be done in this way. And number three, look, the reality is Hamas is a symptom of the problem. As long as you treat Hamas as the problem rather than as a symptom of the problem, you're never going to get rid of Hamas. Or if you do, by some fantasy means, get rid of Hamas, you'll just get another version of Hamas, because now you've got tens of thousands of orphans, you've got people who've lost their kids, their spouses, their siblings. What, you think they're not going to fight back in the years to come? I think you're being a little too generous to the Israelis here, and with the greatest respect, I think your questions reflect a little bit of a naivety about what Israel's doing here. You're starting from the premise that Israel is trying to defeat Hamas. I don't accept that premise. I don't believe that's what Israel is trying to do.
What do you think they're trying to do?
They wouldn't be doing it this way. I think they're trying to take back Gaza. I think they're trying to erase the resistance in Gaza. I think they're trying to get rid of the people from Gaza. I think this is they've mowed the lawn, as they put it in previous wars. This time they're going in to erase the population. There's a plausible genocide.
Okay, but let me ask you
that. If you listen to Israeli officials, as you know, it's laid out in the South African petition, they are very genocidal in their approach to flattening and burning down Gaza. It's not about destroying Hamas. And if it was about destroying Hamas, why has Netanyahu and Smotrich and others talked about how Hamas is an asset to Israel? Why do they say that openly, Piers?
There is absolutely no doubt that Netanyahu's primary goal is to erase Gaza. There is no doubt. I mean, you've got Israeli hip-hop artists making songs about erasing Gaza. There are famous British journalists from years ago who met Netanyahu when he was a kid, who spoke about how his primary goal was when he grew up to become prime minister and to erase Gaza. Like, there is zero doubt about the intentions behind this whole thing.
What I would say, Piers, is that I find it a problem, and you know this, you've joked about all the memes about you, this obsession with what we call Hamas, which is a question you pose, let's be honest, Piers, to most of your pro-Palestinian brown guests. You don't ask your Israeli or Jewish or pro-Israeli guests to condemn Israeli terrorism or Israeli war crimes at the start of an interview in the way you do.
Well, no, I've been asked directly whether I think Israel are terrorists, and I've said no. So I don't think they are. I think they had a right to defend themselves. The question is scale.
That wasn't the point I made, Piers.
That wasn't the point I made.
I said when you have Israeli guests on... Let me finish my sentence.
No, Mehdi, it's not your show. It's mine. I wanted to say that, or the whole interview, by the way. So we got that out of the way. That's a joke. I'm joking. But the point I would make is, I think that I asked all the pro-Palestinian guests who've come on that question quite quickly, because I think it reveals a state of mind. If, like you, and I'm sorry, I didn't realise you had in that first piece on MSNBC done that, so I take back the suggestion you hadn't, and I'm glad that you have called them that. I don't think you can call them anything else. So the moment you have a pro-Palestinian guest who wants to avoid calling what Hamas did an act of terrorism by terrorists, I think it's very revealing about their mindset, and I think it's the wrong mindset.
Here's my problem with that. Why is that not applied to your Israeli guests? I would be fine, Piers, if you had Palestinian guests and you begin by asking them, do you condemn Hamas war crimes? Because what Hamas did on October 7th was a war crime. But then you should start with Israeli guests and pro-Israeli guests saying, do you condemn Israeli war crimes, which have been documented by the UN, every human rights group on the planet? You don't. You had Naftali Bennett, the former Israeli Prime Minister, on a couple of weeks ago. I watched the interview. Your opening question was, how comfortable are you with the way Israel's prosecuting the war? Right. Bit of a softball to start with. You didn't ask him to condemn Israeli terrorism, Israeli war crimes, Israeli genocide in Gaza. So a lot of people look at that and they say, they get your intention, but it comes across as a bit of a racist double standard.
Well, look, I don't think it's a racist double standard, and I think that nobody has given pro-Palestinian voices a bigger platform more consistently since October the 7th than me.
Then he just goes on to talk about how he's given a platform to pro-Palestine speakers, which I think is, by the way, it's the base minimum. Like, it really is the minimum. Like, just because you're allowing pro-Palestinian people to speak doesn't mean you're helping anybody. And I mean, he's not helping. I mean, he has great guests on that have great arguments, but at the end of the day, he refuses to even accept an inch of those arguments. He's still, I mean, this is the first time I've watched his show since Bassem Youssef's interview, which was like 5 months ago now. And he still is saying the exact same things, is still in the exact same narrative, like nothing's changed. It is a completely racist double standard. I mean, these Zionists, they're godless. That's their number one sickness that causes all of this horrific actions. Is they're God's chosen people, but they don't believe in God. Make it make sense. They have hate ingrained into them from a young age, like actually so deep inside of them, I don't even know how you would even go about pulling those weeds out. From childhood, taught so much hate and fear that they have to live their whole lives with this hate and fear. That they do these horrific acts to innocent people, to innocent children, getting shot down, getting tortured, getting burnt to death. All I can say is we need to keep fighting, and if you have the means to donate to my fundraiser, please, please, please donate. The link is in the comments and the description. Thank you guys for watching. Assalamu alaikum.